Well, hello again and welcome. Today I thought I'd cover on the Strymon Timeline MX a delay that I think doesn't get the attention it deserves. The tape delay, the D tape, because of the success of the L cap and whatnot. I think steals the show a lot of times, and it's an excellent delay. But there's plenty of other delays, and one of them, the oil can, I think it has a particular character that is really neat. It's a more primitive delay. If you're not familiar with how they work, I'll link a. Actually, it's a forum chain of a guy restoring it, so he has pictures and things, and a little better description. But it uses an aluminum disc. This isn't one. This is a coffee heater, but this for illustrative purposes. I think it's usually covered in carbon, but it spins. So and it works a little bit like an LP record. Or an EP record, a vinyl record, not in terms of grooves, but just in terms of a spinning platter that's red. And it is immersed in an oil bath to create a dielectric. A dielectric is basically a insulator that the electrons can, they're not free flowing like in a conductor, but what will happen is if you put a charge next to it, it will, the electrons will, come up to the surface. They're trying to bridge that gap, so they get attracted. So what you wind up with is a static charge, i.e., electrostatic, a static charge that mimics whatever potential you put across there, whatever voltage signal you put across on a head. And so that's your record of your that's the recording of the signal is that, which is basically a capacitor. Like a bucket brigade delay, which would, the analog delay, you've got little individual capacitors, little buckets, and they store a slice, a little sample of the signal's charge, and then they pass the signals down the line like a bucket brigade for fire, like water for fire. This is like one continuous surface. So you get a continuous sort of recording of the signal. So it's one kind of continuous capacitor. Now the thing about that is there's a lot of physical limits there. So it tends to be, very leaky and murky, and it's not a very precise recording, which is kind of neat. That's, I think, kind of the thing. We say primitive, but then when we like it, we call it vintage. And that's what I think this has. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at it. I got about a 500 millisecond delay there because I just think that that's a good amount of time to hear what's going on. It repeats down to 0. The color controls, I'm going to turn those off. The filter and the grit, which I think make the color of the unit. Turn any modulation off. Now, this model does have 2 heads, 2 read heads. I am going to go ahead and stay with the long one for now, just so you can hear what's going on. This is an oil can. This is an oil can. This is an oil can. So that's the basic sound. It's pretty, excuse me, it can get, somewhat dark. Now, if you'll notice something about that, though, I think kind of an interesting thing is the repeats were all the way down to 0. The oil can, again, kind of being primitive, has a record head, puts the static charge on there, and a read head, a playback head. Uh, no erase head. There, it doesn't. It doesn't get rid of the signal on the next pass through. So you have a natural multi echo. So it's. I think that's one thing that maybe limits its use. Well, defines its use. I think it's more of an atmospheric thing. Than say a cannon in a box or number of strict echoes. But it's just part of the charm of it. Now, if we do add feedback to it and some repeats, we get some degradation. We get some degradation. We get some degradation. That's my coffee cup. Now, one thing you'll notice about that is the ghosting echoes, the ones that have been recorded but aren't going through the regen path, and the ones that go through the regen path don't line up time-wise too well. So you get kind of I don't want to say exactly a polyrhythmic, but it's definitely not a lockstep feel, and you start getting kind of almost a crinkly shimmer kind of effect on the longer decay, where a lot of the frequency content is dropped out, but the delays are sort of getting a little diffused, and it creates I think I wouldn't want to say similar to like a crinkle or splice in a tape, but that sort of artifact where it's a little broken sounding. Let me highlight that again if I can. I don't know if I want to call it a crinkle effect, but it comes to me kind of broken, kind of where it's you're losing that kind of rhythmic echo feel. So yeah, that's I think kind of the practical upshot of that. Let me go ahead and kick up the repeats quite a bit so you can really hear the decay, how these decay. I think it gets very an interesting decay and gets kind of to become a cloud. And it is one of those delays where the repeats aren't as, I guess I'd say, well behaved as, say, a digital model, where you can really lock it in, which is, again, part of the charm. I'll go ahead and turn it up and. Test. So I think Strymon did a great job of. Oh, excuse my, I am clipping there a little bit. I got excited. I think that Strymon did a good job again with the repeats in terms of really at max putting it on that edge. Where you get essentially an infinite type of sound, but you're not racing for the panic button like you may have with old analog delays or something, especially if you do the buzzsaw trick, of shortening the time all of a sudden, where you're about to just blow your speakers up. The thing just goes, well past unity and starts just going crazy. So I think they've done a really, really good job with that part. Let's take a listen to the filter and the grit controls. We'll start with just the filter control. Test.
Test, test,
Test.
test, test,
Test.
test,
Filter low.
filter low,
Filter low.
filter low,
Filter max.
filter max,
Pop.
pop,
Filter low.
filter low,
Filter low.
filter low,
So it definitely darkens things up, which I think is really appropriate for this. You can get kind of that mush. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and kick up the repeats with a bunch of filter on so you can hear that kind of mush out. One thing that was kind of interesting on the last kind of big repeat thing, I don't know if you noticed, but at least at 500 milliseconds, the cowbell really maintained. Like that seemed to be about where the sweet spot of the frequency retention was. It didn't roll off so much and kept going. You could still hear the articulation and things in the cowbell, which was kind of interesting. Test.
test,
Test.
test,
Definitely killed some of the cowbell. It's the anti-SNL, less cowbell. Put it back down.
back down,
Now, I don't know if Strymon put a internal limiter on it, but it sure sounds like it. Because I was ready to pull the ripcord on that, but letting it go, I'm not seeing my levels. I'm not seeing them go crazy and saturate. Once it gets to that, but it gets on the line there. So kudos on that. You get, I think, the intensity without the risk, which is pretty cool. Let's take a listen to the grit. Now that it obviously is just it's a filter that it sounds just getting darker. It sounds like you're rolling off the highs, but it's got kind of a nice throaty feel. I think quite a bit that matches what's going on with the system overall. So filter back down. I'm going to put the repeats down just so we can hear the grit. 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 Grit max. Grit max. Grit max. Grit up. Ba. Maybe somewhat subtle, but I think really usable. If you listen to it, what I'm hearing there is, while you get the regular asynchronous feel out of the ghost delays versus the feedback delay, the grit seems to be adding, again, kind of a little bit of a warble, most maybe like a kind of wow and flutter type effects, but it's like real warbling. I think that's modeling the oil slosh, just that kind of mechanical chemical system. You've got a rotating disc inside a fluid, and so again, I don't want to say tape crinkle as such, or that kind of thing, but I think it kind of produces that sort of effect, and you're getting a lot of artifacting that's kind of a little bit on. I don't want to use on top, but it's we'll take another listen. It's creating kind of a breakdown of the signal. That's very apparent. I think it's apparent on the high end there. That's my coffee cup, but you can hear that kind of real warbly type effect. If you listen to it actually during the decay, I'll just turn it up while I'm doing it. So yeah, I mean it's one of those things I think initially sounds real subtle, but like a lot of effects, I think the first time you play through a flanger, oh, it's a jet engine, and then you realize, oh, my ear gets fatigued very quickly from that, and I need back it off, turn it down about 7. You're at 10, turn it down to 7, back it off, and I think it's that kind of effect. And again, they're sort of modeling a specific type of delay, the oil can. So I think it's really appropriate, and I think they've, done a really good job with that. The two what I generally kind of call color controls are just tuning that model. They're not making just kind of these radical changes, which can kind of be musically unuseful. So it really seems like the Timeline MX has done a good job in terms of musicality, especially in the like these traditional type models. I mean, I get that some of the other models may your sound designy type models that are later on the clock there, can get real bizarre. So I think that they've done a really good job of keeping it kind of trad. Let's take a listen to the mod, which is, I think, just a normal old LFO controlled delay time. Let me go ahead and turn the grit and the filter down up so that we can hear the deal. Mod test. No mod. Lots of mod. So real effective. Just make sure you have your Dramamine when you put yourself in seasick mode. Interesting though, when you put the speed all the way up, I think you're so far up that you're kind of getting a more audio frequency type modulation, so you almost don't hear it as a warble. You don't hear it as kind of your standard chorusy detune. You're up too high, and it's, I think, just becoming an art, part of the rest of the sound. Like, I don't know if you've ever turned up a low frequency oscillator where it's just tick, 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 and then you turn it up, and you start getting into the audio frequencies, and then it becomes a tone. It's that kind of same thing. Yeah, so that's it does seem like a pretty straight ahead modulation, but I think with this I can see it really working because you're going for these kind of with this model imprecise, where you're going with these kind of imprecise echoes and this, it's not a rhythm delay feel that can really add to that effect. Even if it's not part of the native design of it. So let me just kind of try a little something something here. We'll add a little bit of everything and the kitchen sink and just see what kind of sound we can get out of this. Test. Sorry, I don't even have it off the stand. Test. So yeah, I think with the tonal changes, I mean, that it's a, kind of a restricted frequency spectrum, and it's not, sort of arrhythmic in terms of the extra echoes, not the primary echo, but you get a, more of a cloud, more of and an ambient kind of feel, so ambiance, which stays off your dry sound, which is kind of cool. Like, I mean, that's the thing with the Duckers and things that you wind up having to use against a more crisp digital delay where it can, or any of the crisper delays where it can sit on top of the sound too much. It's nice that this sort of naturally, well, it doesn't duck, but it sort of naturally stays out of your way a little bit by just being a pretty restricted delay. Not that you can't add swell and duck and these kinds of things. I did want to look at the head select real quickly because we only have been using long, short. Both. That's just the short, just the long, both. So again, it just gives you kind of a richer feedback that's, gets, I think, even and more diffuse if you, and that's where I think this one shines. It just gives another tool there to enrich the cloud, which is where I think the oil can really shines. So that's the oil can delay. Again, if you have anything you want me to look at, please don't hesitate to drop me a line, and I will try to help you out.